Hey everybody, welcome back to Q's Book Reviews. It's great to have you here. This is the start of another reading vlog, which I know a few of you have been asking for more of. I've just started certainly one of my most intimidating books, Ulysses by James Joyce. I'm only about 30-ish pages in so far, but I think it's about what I expected it to be. The writing is really beautiful, so I'm excited to keep reading, though I will say it's kind of slow going. It certainly lives up to its name in terms of difficulty. I'm definitely on the hunt for a bit of a lighter read to have alongside it, so I might pick something else up in the coming days. Other than that, I'm excited to bring you all with me for another few days. It's currently Thursday morning, and since I'm a PhD student, I do research during the week, so I gotta head in and do some work. It's been a little bit since I last checked in. It's now Tuesday of the next week, and I have to say I haven't gotten quite as far in Ulysses yet as I would have liked. Now, that's partly because I've been pretty busy, but it's also partly because the book is honestly really difficult. This really might be the most I've struggled with the book so far, and it's difficult in the same way that I felt reading Borges was difficult, in that there's so many minute details and references jam-packed throughout. While it's certainly not necessary for me to understand all of these references to read and enjoy Ulysses, I do feel like I'd be missing out on much of the genius if I didn't do my due diligence to try and track them down. And so this means that I'm stopped, every other sentence or two, trying to make sense of things, and it is really slowing me down quite a bit. Now, I do think there's a learning period with every new author where you have to become accustomed to their writing style. And since this is the first work I've read by Joyce, I have had to familiarize myself with his style. And so I do feel like I'm getting a bit more into the flow of things now, so hopefully that'll make it a little easier. I have been using a website called the Joyce Project, which has a complete annotated version of the text, which has been helpful in getting to understand some of the more obtuse references. Now, comparing it to the other companion book that I've read, being Steven Weisenberger's Companion for Gravity's Rainbow, I will say I'm not enjoying it quite as much, just because Weisenberger has such a knack for explaining references and how they sort of fit into the broader narrative as well. Regardless, I've just started the second part of Ulysses, so I've finished the first 3 episodes following Stephen Daedalus, and now I'm being introduced to the character of Leopold Bloom. Now, apparently the last episode that I just finished reading, Proteus, is considered one of the more difficult ones in the book, so hopefully the next few won't be quite as challenging. That said, the themes the book is touching on so far are very intriguing, with the most crucial ones being Christian metaphysics, especially the Trinity, religion in general, in particular the Protestant-Catholic divide in Ireland, which then also relates to the more general British colonial rule over Ireland, Stephen's role as an artist, and then death. In particular, Stephen associates water very strongly with death, and he's grieving over the loss of his mother. I think the theme I've latched onto most so far is Joyce's exploration of unionism, that being Great Britain's control over Ireland. Perhaps most interestingly, Joyce himself was not so fervently nationalist, and he rejects and pokes fun at, in his opinion, their more idealized and romanticized visions, especially in the writings of people like W.B. Yeats. As you guys saw earlier, I watched the movie Bloody Sunday a few days ago to immerse myself more in the culture, and it definitely left me pretty livid. Movies like that really can make me quite upset, which not necessarily in a bad way. I think it's good to feel things from time to time, which is part of the reason I read as well. Anyways, I'm very interested to see where the book is going to go next, and hopefully I won't struggle quite as much because, as I've said, it's been pretty tough. You'll have also seen that I went mushroom IDing over the weekend, which was a really wonderful time. I haven't been doing it for too long, so don't take any of my identifications as doctrine, but it's a really great excuse to just go out in the woods for a few hours and not really think or worry about anything else, which I think we could all use every once in a while. In terms of field guides I've been using, I have 2. I have both the Peterson field guide as well as the Audubon Society field guide. Now, I think I prefer the Peterson one just because it uses illustrations, detailed drawings, which are fun to flip through on their own. Whereas the Audubon one uses photographs. It's the same thing in birding, which I do as well, where in a lot of cases drawings can show a sort of idealized version of something, whereas photographs contain, small discrepancies from the general case, which can often be included in a drawing. So while the drawings are often less realistic than photos, they're actually better for matching the characteristics of whatever you're trying to identify. I'm also trying a bit to learn tree identification, though I'm not the hugest fan of this Audubon field guide that I have for trees, but it's the best one I've found so far. So if you're at all familiar with this area and you have any suggestions, please let me know. Finally, I think I also told you all that I was looking for something else to read alongside Ulysses, so I decided to pick up A Wild Sheep's Chase by Haruki Murakami. Now, I've been meaning to read the Rat Trilogy as it's known for quite a while, and I've heard that it's best to start with this one, so I picked up a copy from my library. I'm a little over 100 pages, or 1/3 of the way through so far, and it's been pretty good. It has the most surreal, dreamlike, but sometimes also nightmarish qualities to his writing that I really like out of everything I've read by him so far. So assuming it doesn't go totally off the rails with the over-sexualization in the last 2/3, I think I'll end up liking it quite a bit. From what I'm understanding so far, it's about a man working at an advertising agency who placed an unremarkably remarkable photo of some sheep in an ad, triggering the organization surrounding an influential, shadowy, far-right figure in Japan to track him down. For what reason? I'm still trying to figure that out, but I'm sure it's going to be a wild sheep chase. Sorry, that was bad. Alright, that's all the updates I have for now. I might go on a walk later this evening and do some reading, so if I do, I'll definitely bring you along with me. just thought I'd pop on and give a few updates. It's the weekend again, and I'm hoping to get a lot of reading done. I'm still chugging my way through Ulysses, though I don't have a ton to say about it right now. I'm now about 2/3 of the way through A Wild Sheep Chase by Murakami, and I'm still really enjoying it. I'm expecting to finish it up within the coming days. It's a super light read, but it's still very interesting, so it's the perfect thing to offset Ulysses. Once I finish it up, I'm hoping to get to the Dispossessed soon as well. I also picked up some more poetry from the library. I got 2 things by Bertolt Brecht, who's a German poet and also playwright. Here, this is just a short work with some of his poetry, and I guess prose as well. But the nice thing about this is it has the German on one side and the English on the other. And since I used to take German, it'll be nice to have the original text alongside it. So hopefully I'll be able to read some of that as well. And then this bigger one here is, I think, all of his poems, which I'm certainly not going to read all of them, but it'll be nice to have a more expanded collection as well. So I've read some of Brecht's work before, and I liked it, so I'm very excited to read more of his poetry as well, because I know it's pretty beloved in Germany. I'm also finally reading The Prophet by Kahlil Gibran, which is sort of a mix between poetry and prose. But this is one of my brother's favorite works, so I'm excited to be finally reading it. This is another library copy, but I actually found a super sweet note in it, which it's pretty long, so I won't read the whole thing, but I'll read some highlights from it for you guys. If you appreciate this note, please leave it behind for the next lover. Replace it in this book, The Prophet by Kahlil Gibran, in the section on love. Dear reader, I'm visiting this beautiful city, Montreal, with my love R. My love, how strange that just a few short months ago, we were barely friends. How quickly we learned to fly together. This all started when we took each other's jokes and ran with them, endlessly, iteration after iteration, annoying our friends with our endless supply of laughter, triggered by describing a world that only we could possibly understand. Pure acceptance of any ridiculous assertion, and with every bit of acceptance came a little deeper connection, building every time. Reader, if R were here right now, I would tell them, the love and light you brought to my life has made the whole world look like a brighter place to me. I'm trying to say something new, but can still only come up with things I've said before. How can I describe this place? Can words even do it justice? If I say that it's both infinite and ever-expanding, that every time we tap into this place, we expand with it, that each time I experience it anew, my sense of its scale dwarfs everything I could have imagined about it the previous time, that my connection with you increases exponentially every time we're there, that I've never felt so consciously at home in my body or so deeply connected to another person's experience, and that I've certainly never gotten to feel both of these at the same time. These are still just words. How can I ever express the effect your heart has had on mine? I'm sure you feel it too. I just wish I could record it better. I'd like to think that what we have is rare, but I hope it's not. Love like this is what makes the world change, I think. Our love isn't made to fulfill expectations. It's made to destroy them in the best possible way. To knock down the walls and clear out the rubble so that there's room to create, but not a new building. We've cleared the structure entirely to make room for a garden. We've planted so many seeds that will grow if we just nurture them and give them the sunlight they need. Our seedlings are just starting to sprout, and it seems so unbelievable that life could just happen like that. I feel like we're both so in awe at the fact that things are growing that it's only just occurring to me that there is so much more possibility for growth and change. Which of these plants will blossom this year? Which will grow larger, and which will grow new every year? Which ones are trees? Which ones bear fruit? There's so much to see, so much to learn, so much to touch and taste and feel, so much care to give, so much change to come, so much love to go around. Compared to any human-made structure, a garden is anarchy, but I think we both know what we want in that regard. I love you so much, R, and by that I mean, I can't wait to tear down more walls with you, to plant more seeds with you, to keep growing and changing with your influence as we live our lives in this wild place. That's what I would tell them. Be vulnerable and love generously, reader. The risk is worth it. All my love and more to you, lovely human. Plant some seeds today if you can. Even in my copy of A Wild Sheep Chase, I found a little note, and it says, hello, is anybody out there? Can anybody hear me? It's just little things like that, which I find so great. Maybe it's the romantic in me. So those are my reading updates. I got a few things I want to do this weekend, but I woke up kind of late today, so that might limit things a little bit. It's also dependent on the weather. It's raining right now, but I'd like to do some stuff outside. Worst case scenario, I'll just go to a cafe and read or something. Some would say this is the only reason I moved to Canada. Well, I think I'm going to close out this vlog here. It's already Thursday again, so it's been a full 2 weeks since I started this. As you saw over the weekend, I went to a cafe, and it was really unlike any other cafe I'd been to. Very hip place with a live DJ and everything. And then I also went to a very beautiful park here in Montreal. It's right on the river where the water becomes very turbulent and rough, so it's a pretty cool spot, and it's good for some reading too, you know. I'm now 100 pages into Ulysses, and with the introduction of the character Leopold Bloom, some new themes are being introduced, and then others that were introduced with Stephen are being retouched upon and sort of delved into further. For instance, Bloom's relationship with his wife Molly is clearly on the rocks, and if I'm understanding correctly, he's going to be cuckolded at some point in the future, and so this sort of parallels Stephen's own struggles with love. Alternatively, you have Stephen, who's very fearful of water, associating with death, whereas Bloom associates it actually with rejuvenation and rebirth. And the current structure of the narrative is very much intending you to compare the two characters, as each is given their own part with 3 subsections to it, and actually across the 3 subsections, their actions sort of mirror each other. The meditations on death and religion are integrated very cleverly with Bloom's character, as he had a son who died only 11 days after having been born. And this very much calls to mind the concept of theodicy, or how a benevolent and all-powerful God, such as the one in Christianity, can allow horrible things like the suffering of children to happen. And I'm just now realizing that the word theodicy sounds very similar to the book by Homer, The Odyssey, which of course Ulysses is a loose retelling of. Now I think this is just coincidence, but I wouldn't put it past Joyce. This religious problem of children suffering is also the backbone of Dostoevsky's The Brothers Karamazov, so it's nice to be revisiting it in Ulysses and think a little bit more on it. Another very important theme introduced with Bloom is the fact that he, or it's very heavily insinuated that he grew up Jewish, even though he may not practice it anymore. In Ireland, just as in much of the world over, Jewish people were heavily discriminated against. And so you see these tensions constantly coming to the surface in the life of Bloom. And Joyce uses this really as another opportunity to sort of investigate the divisions in society, particularly religious, no longer just limiting it to Protestant versus Catholic. I think that all actually came out a bit more comprehensively than I was expecting it to. I'm finding with these very long, hugely detailed works of fiction such as Moby Dick, Gravity's Rainbow, and now Ulysses, that I often struggle to put my thoughts into words, as the narratives contain just so many disparate threads of themes and concepts that it's often hard to tie them in together in a way that's communicable. Now, of course, this means you can just single out one thread or idea and only focus on and discuss that, but then you lose the necessary context into which they are woven within the actual book. This is probably the strongest argument I have for advocating why you should just read all these books yourself, as I don't think I'm able to do them much justice, but I hope you get something out of my attempts at analysis regardless. That's also why over the course of reading Ulysses, I think I'll focus more on my own subjective reading experience, as that's easier to communicate. Speaking of which, I am getting into the flow of reading Ulysses a bit more, and the rate at which I'm reading is increasing. This is probably because I'm finding Bloom's narrative a bit more easily understandable to myself versus Stephen's. But I also think that the first 100 or so pages of any book are almost always the hardest. And this goes back to my what I was talking about earlier with needing to get familiar with authors. I do think this has probably been more challenging than Gravity's Rainbow so far. And actually, it's been a little less rewarding to read, but it's probably still too early to say. In any case, I am looking forward to reading more and seeing how the book progresses after these first 3 episodes for both Stephen and Bloom. Now, I've definitely been making a lot more progress with The Wild Sheep's Chase, as I actually finished it a day or 2 ago. It might just be my new favorite Murakami book, though I don't know, I still do really like Norwegian Wood as well. The last story update I gave, the main character was just figuring out why this photo of sheep was so important, and he's now been tasked with tracking down one particular sheep from the photo. So he begins a journey to find the remote town where this photo was taken, all the while uncovering information pertinent to both his investigation and his own life. I won't spoil it any further, and I'll probably go deeper into my thoughts in my reading wrap-up for the month. But needless to say, Murakami's writing prowess is on full display here, and it's a very enjoyable, dreamily mysterious, lighter read for sure. It makes me very excited to read the next in the series, Dance, 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 which I have reason to believe will be even better. I've also just started The Dispossessed by Ursula K. Guin, and I'm already really loving it. This actually has the depth of ideas that I've been hoping for in other books I've read recently, such as The Secret History or Piranesi, and it's a fucking sci-fi book. Not to slight sci-fi, but I think it's easy to look down on it as being lowbrow sometimes. And The Dispossessed is not lowbrow. Le Guin certainly has the writing skills to back up these ideas as well. I could still end up hating it, as I'm only about 25 pages in so far, but I kind of doubt that. Seeing as this video is already going to be plenty long, I won't go into detail as to what the book's about, but I'll save that for another video. With that, I think I've done enough talking. I hope very much that you enjoyed this little reading vlog. Obviously, I didn't come anywhere close to finishing Ulysses in this video, but I'm going to keep working away at it, and I'm considering making a reading vlog series focusing on it. If that's something you'd like to see, just let me know and I'll start filming the next part. I'm also going to be moving to a new apartment very soon, so the next video you see from me very well may be in that new place. So forgive me if there's another slight delay in uploads, but I'm going to try my best to keep filming. And as always, if there's any other videos you'd like to see from me, or books you have to recommend to me, I look forward to hearing about them in the comments. With that, I hope you're having a great day, and I'll see you in the next one.